There comes a time in the life of a guitar player when you realize that the main tool you've been relying on to play doesn't always cut it. And oftentimes that tool is the minor pentatonic scale, a great scale, tons of licks, the basis of so many awesome solos. Well, something happened to me a few years ago, and that changed everything. A few years ago, a buddy of mine sent me this backing track, kind of a blues rock type thing, and it was great. It sounded great until it didn't sound great anymore because of that chord. So what happens when you can no longer rely on the minor pentatonic scale because there's that one chord that changes everything? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. Hello, my name is David. Welcome to the channel, which is all about helping you express yourself on the guitar. We're going to talk about those chords that don't always match. I have a backing track here to illustrate this, but this will work over any backing track that unfortunately doesn't fit the minor pentatonic scale well, or any other scale you're in, but we're going to use the minor pentatonic scale as a basis. Now, the backing track that we're going to use today is part of a method that is called the visual track method. I'll tell you a little bit about this at the end of this video, and it's available right now if you want to check it out. The link is below. Check it out. I'll tell you more about it later, but for now, let's use the method to understand how we can play over these chords that don't always fit the minor pentatonic scale. We're going to keep this simple. The backing track here is made of two chords. This first one is a C sharp minor, and then the second chord is an F minor. Now, typically, if I tell you, let's play something in the C sharp minor, well, you're going to look for your C sharp minor pentatonic scale and just go for it. Works great. That's where it doesn't work anymore. Remember last week, if you were not here, I told you that a solo is kind of like traveling in a train. You're sitting in your seat, going from point A to point B. And there are two ways of doing it. Most of the time, when guitar players come to me for lessons, they will sit in their seat and wait for the train to go to travel, and then they arrive, and that's great. And they trust the process, and that corresponds to trusting the scale you're using throughout the track. The other option that we're kind of exploring this week in this week's series of videos is to sit in your seat, and as soon as the train starts, the train is traveling from point A to point B, that's the backing track, you get out of your seat and you visit the different compartments of the train. The different compartments of the train are the chords that is making this train, the backing track, and as you visit these compartments, instead of focusing on the full journey, you're visiting these different chords. So you're playing on a per chord basis, and that's what we're going to do here. So since we have two chords that are minor, we're going to associate with these two different chords the minor pentatonic scale. We'll just start with that. We're not going to embellish that. We could, but we'll keep it very simple. Just use the tools that you're already used to playing. So two minor pentatonic scales. C sharp minor pentatonic that will play over the C sharp minor chord, and F minor pentatonic over the F minor chord. Pretty simple theory. That's the basic of all theory. That's really all you need, really. You just match musical elements. If you have a minor chord, well, you're going to pick from the different minor scales that are available to you, and a simple minor scale is minor pentatonic. So we're matching those elements. C sharp minor chord, C sharp minor pentatonic. F minor chord, F minor pentatonic. Okay, so with that in mind, let's give it a try. So on that C sharp minor pentatonic scale, I'm going to use the first position between frets 9 and 12. Here it is. And here's the F minor pentatonic, which I'll also use the first position from the first fret. Back to C sharp. Adding a few licks, C sharp minor pentatonic. And F minor pentatonic. So that works, but what happens? I'm jumping around a lot. And when I'm jumping around, well, it kind of creates a break in the musical idea and the flow of things. My story is jumping from this thing to this thing. I don't want that. I want everything smooth. I want the transition to be as natural as possible. If I can make the transition of these two chords really that have nothing to do with each other very comfortable to you, you're going to appreciate the music more and appreciate my story and listen to what I have to say. And that jump creates the cut in the different ideas. See, I've got an idea that I'm starting here in the first position of C sharp minor pentatonic. And then transitioning. See, it's like two people speaking together, almost arguing. We're going to fix that by working in zones of the fretboard. We're going to use narrow zones of the fretboard. A narrow zone is going to be a zone that is reachable without doing too big stretches, avoiding that jump. So a zone is typically going to be using 4 fingers, so a span of 4 frets. And we're going to allow ourselves to go 1 fret lower than the zone and 1 fret higher than the zone. So a zone of the fretboard will cover at the most 6 frets. All right, let's determine our zone of the fretboard, and it could be any zone really. But for this, we're going to start with the first chord, which is a C sharp minor pentatonic. We're going to use the first position of C sharp minor pentatonic, which starts on the 9th fret. That's going to determine our zone. The 9th fret of the low E string is a C sharp, and if I play my first position, kind of messed up that note here, but all these notes fit that zone of the fretboard that we're going to use between frets 9 and 12, okay? Great. Now that's the area of the fretboard, the slice of the fretboard we're going to use. Okay, now we have the other chord, which is F minor, which comes after this C sharp minor. So C sharp minor, I'm in my zone. And then here comes the F. The first step is to find an F in that zone of the fretboard. We're going to contain everything to avoid that jump. You can use your ear, or you can use the knowledge of the fretboard that hopefully you have. And we do have an F right here on the 5th string, 8th fret. That's an F. And that's within the zone because remember, a zone of the fretboard has a span of 6 frets so that we avoid the big jumps like that. So that's great. As soon as I hit my F, I'm going to use this F as a visual reference point on the 5th string, 8th fret. Now back to our little piece of theory where we said that we're matching musical elements together. Minor chord, minor pentatonic. If we had a major chord, major pentatonic, but here we're dealing just with minor chords. Well, we know our zone of the fretboard. We know the root of the chords, C sharp and F. Now we simply need to fit the F minor pentatonic scale within that zone of the fretboard. Now take a look at this. My F is right here on the 5th string, 8th fret. In order to stay within this zone of the fretboard, well, the layout of the minor pentatonic scale for F needs to happen on the right side, towards the bridge. So I'm going to use a position that is built around there. So if you know your caged system, that's awesome. That's really going to help you. If not, a little more on that later. But if not, that's fine. Just try to find the F minor pentatonic scale sound and try to replicate it around here. And that's the one that we're using, that position. So now we have 2 positions in the same zone of the fretboard. C sharp minor pentatonic in that zone of the fretboard, and F minor pentatonic. Now be careful, this is a danger zone because you might start to feel that you need to create long phrases, play fast, and your brain is going to play tricks on you. You're going to get confused and frustrated. Don't do that. Just a few notes are enough. Here's the exercise. As the backing track is playing, we're going to first visualize the slice of the fretboard we're using between frets 9 and 12, give or take, 1 fret higher or lower. And we're just going to visualize the positions. If you don't want to visualize all the strings, just focus on 2 or 3 strings at a time. Just look at your fretboard and imagine where you'd place your fingers. Then, once you feel that you are comfortable, you're going to notice some differences and some similarities between the 2 positions. Some notes are going to be common, and you will always find some common notes. And that's where you can start playing these and start developing simple melodic ideas. Now, real quick, before we try this on the instrument, if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification so that you're notified when a video comes up. I know it's said a lot on YouTube channels, it sounds cliche, but it really does help not only the channel grow, but also you, because there's a lot of videos that you might be missing, and we're gonna do a lot more series of videos that follow each other, and I don't want you to miss out. So take a second, subscribe, click the bell notification, it's free. Now let's try that over the backing track. Here's my first chord. I'm just visualizing mentally the C sharp minor pentatonic scale in that zone of the fretboard. Here's the F minor pentatonic. Okay? Now I'm gonna focus on the first 2 strings here. So C sharp minor pentatonic. Okay, 9-12, 9-12. And then F minor pentatonic, within the position, it would be 9-11, 8-11. Okay, let's play these and see what happens. Start building some phrases. Starting to sound kind of interesting, right? I can start an idea in one area of the fretboard and continue it in the same area of the fretboard, but over the next chord. And then you expand as you go. Just pentatonic. And before you know it, you're phrasing over complex chord progressions. And then you can start adding some licks, a little more confidence in there. Spend time in that area of the fretboard that you started with, in this case between frets 9 and 12. And then once you feel that you're getting a hang of it, once you feel that you're a little less anxious about this transition, try another area of the fretboard and see what happens too. Eventually, you will start to visualize the common notes between both scales you're using, in this case, pentatonic. We can go a little further and maybe use some more complex scales or modes for Dorian, for example, which is so close to minor pentatonic, and do the same exact type of work, and that really, really helps. The backing track we use today is part of this visual track method. The visual track method is a collection of 30 high-quality backing tracks, just like this one, that were designed to help you develop that fretboard knowledge, just like we did today. You pick a zone of the fretboard, and you start playing over the chords. Instead of playing over the full backing track, you're focusing on the chords. This really is the secret that will bring you from an intermediate, even beginner stage to the more advanced stage of guitar, and it's much easier than you think. I will guide you through it in this method. It's available right now at a heavy discount, so check it out below, or you can click right here and check out what it's about. Thanks for watching this video. Remember to subscribe. I'll meet you right there. Practice well. Always awkward.